All right, let's get right into it. We're at day 195 for the PLAZM Protocol, and if you look at the broader market, well, it's pretty much in a state of crisis. We are seeing total panic, big sell-offs, and a feeling of just extreme fear. For most projects out there, this is a serious code red situation. But here's the wild idea we're going to unpack today. For PLAZM's very specific design, these kinds of conditions, they aren't just something to get through. They're actually a huge structural opportunity. You see, for PLAZM, this isn't a crisis. It's more like a fire sale. And the protocol itself, it's the biggest buyer in the room. And this number right here, 16, this is what puts a number on that panic. This is the fear and greed index. And let me tell you, a reading this low is incredibly rare. It signals that kind of deep, gut-wrenching capitulation you really only see at the bottom of major market cycles. So to really get why that is, we're going to walk through 5 key ideas. First, we'll look at the yield engine versus what the market is feeling. Then, the advantage of the buy and burn. We'll talk about how supply gets squeezed in these moments, the whole concept of being anti-fragile, and then finally, what it all looks like from a long-term view. Okay, Professor, I gotta start right here. With the price of ETH just falling through the floor and sentiment being so awful, how can the protocol's yield possibly hold up? Doesn't the revenue just, collapse like everything else? That is the absolute key question. And it all comes down to this idea of real yield. You see, this isn't yield that's just printed from nothing. It's real cash flow from outside productive assets. And that's the reason it's fundamentally disconnected from how people feel about the PLAZM token on any given day. And this really shows you how it works perfectly. The protocol's vault, it's holding over 211 ETH. That ETH is put to work in thousands of DexFi bonds that earn real trading fees. Today, that machine churned out over $374 in rock-solid USDC yield. This engine just keeps on running, whether the market is screaming with joy or crying in fear. Right, I get it. The engine keeps humming along, but how does a lower PLAZM token price actually help the protocol? I mean, isn't a lower price just, bad? It helps because of what the protocol does with that yield. A piece of it, about $240 today, is used to buy PLAZM tokens on the open market, and then it just permanently destroys them. At today's super low price, that $240 removes over 14,000 PLAZM from circulation. Now think about this. Just a few months ago, when the price was much higher, that same $240 would have bought a tiny fraction of that. The protocol's buying power is literally supercharged by fear. So the really crucial thing to understand is that this is basically an automated dollar cost averaging machine. The protocol isn't sitting there trying to guess the bottom. Nope, it is systematically buying every single day, which means it automatically gets the full benefit of these downturns by buying and burning more of its own supply for every dollar it spends. Okay, that's starting to click. So tokens are getting burned at a fantastic price. But isn't new supply from people selling or maybe from staking rewards, isn't that just canceling out all the progress and flooding the market anyway? Totally fair concern. So let's just look at the actual data. This chart shows us that a full 18% of the entire supply is already gone, permanently burned. But the real key here is that the liquid sellable supply, it isn't growing. And that leads us to maybe the most important point about supply right now. The supply tap is basically turned off. There are no scheduled token releases, no big stake unlocks. There is nothing on the radar for over 80 days. So while the buy and burn is constantly pulling tokens out of the market, there's no new inflationary pressure putting tokens in. The supply is only going in one direction, down. It's being compressed. Wow. Okay, so let me see if I've got this right. The yield engine is stable, the low price makes the burn more powerful, and there's no new supply coming online. It actually seems like the protocol benefits from all this market stress. Is there, a formal name for that kind of thing? There is, and it is the perfect word for this. The term is anti-fragile, and it was coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. It describes things that don't just survive stress, they actually get stronger because of it. And PLAZM's design has these really distinct anti-fragile properties in a bear market. And this slide just lays out the difference perfectly. A fragile protocol, its revenue dries up and it's forced to just print more of its own token to stay alive, which hurts all the existing holders. PLAZM, on the other hand, its revenue engine keeps chugging along while its token removal machine actually gets more efficient in all the chaos. So let's put it all together. The market stress actually makes the protocol stronger in 4 specific ways. 1, the burn speeds up, like we saw. 2. New bonds can be bought for cheaper in ETH terms. 3. This lets the Treasury pile up more of these productive assets to capture the recovery when it comes. And 4. The result of all this is that long-term holders see their piece of the pie, their proportional share of the network, get bigger. Every shock makes the system stronger. Okay, this is a really, really compelling structural argument. But the whole thing kind of depends on the market not staying in extreme fear forever, right? So what does this all mean for the future, when sentiment finally turns around? Exactly. All the hard work that's being done now is what sets the stage for that eventual recovery. When things do improve, the protocol is going to emerge from this period with a much, much smaller token supply, a bigger engine of productive bonds, and absolutely no supply overhang just waiting to be sold. And, of course, as the price of ETH recovers, the dollar value of that daily yield is going to rise right along with it. And this is precisely why the more sophisticated holders here think in terms of multiple cycles. The architecture isn't built for day traders. It's designed from the ground up to reward patience over several 77-day cycles. This allows all those structural advantages we talked about to really compound over months, not days. So, to kind of wrap it all up, when you really dig into the mechanics, when you look at the data, it shows the system isn't broken. It's not even just surviving this period of extreme fear. In a very real way, it's actually thriving. Every single part is doing exactly what it was designed to do under these exact stressful conditions. You could say it was literally built for this. Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've made the case that for this particular protocol, extreme fear creates a powerful structural opportunity. So the real question to ponder is, in a system that's designed like this, what does patience create?